Hello, my loves. Welcome to your Cosmic Weather Report for the week ahead. I'm back in the UK, so there are no Bali sights or sounds for you this week. But we do have a really powerful week of creating a foundation of self-knowing, self-trust, of really getting to know yourself on a deeper level so that we can then begin to move forwards differently. We've obviously just been through a huge time with the eclipse portal, Mercury in retrograde, the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, that really big Scorpio full moon. And now this week helps to take us into deeper levels and layers of understanding and a very deep foundation in self so we can begin to move forwards differently and make the changes that we've been shown that we need to make. Now, this starts on Monday as Venus moves into Taurus. This is a beautiful time to establish very deep self-care practices. So I'd really ask you at the start of this week to put something in place every day that helps you to care for yourself, nourish yourself, nurture yourself, and most of all to put yourself first, to let yourself know that you are important, that you are as worthy of your love, care and attention as everybody else around you is. And this simple act in itself helps us to establish a sense of deep trust in ourselves and knowing that we're worthy and deserving of our own love, care and attention. And this helps us then to know that we're worthy and deserving of those bigger hopes and dreams as we aim to move towards them. So beautiful time now for really establishing a very strong self-care practice, very strong alignment with your values. So really looking at, what are my values? It may be that over the past few weeks, months, the beginning of this year, you've really changed. And so this could be a time to look at, what are my values now? What do I stand for? What do I want to live by? And ensuring that you're really living by your values and standing by your truth and what is really alive for you right now. So this is such a beautiful time to begin to put yourself first a little bit more. There can be a little bit of stubbornness around Taurus. If there are any Tauruses out there, I adore you, but there can be a bit of a stubborn energy around Taurus. But in this case, it's going to be a really good stubborn energy that's going to make you go, actually, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to keep saying yes to that anymore. This isn't right for me anymore. So you might find almost a sense of wanting to sort of dig your heels in a little bit around things in your life that haven't been working for you, which we can really use. So if you notice yourself feeling a bit stubborn around anything, a bit like, no, I'm not going to do that, almost a bit childlike, like, no, I'm not going to say yes to that. Go deeper into that. That's a really beautiful indication for you of where you've been giving too much of yourself away and where you've been doing things that perhaps aren't in alignment with you. So establish very deep self-care for this week and you'll notice these changes. Now, also on Monday, we have Mars conjunct Neptune. Now, these planets are meeting at the very ends of Pisces, which is really interesting. As Mars meets Neptune, there's going to be, in alignment with this Venus and Taurus energy, a deeper motivation, drive and desire to really go after your dreams, after what you want, after what your deepest needs and desires are. There's going to be this very deep motivation of like, this is what I want for myself. There can also be around this a confusion, a sense of, I don't know what I want, I don't know who I am, a realization that you put everybody else first and you put all of their needs and dreams before your own. So when it comes to you, you're like, well, I don't know what I want. I spend too long worrying about what everybody else wants. And this can be quite a jarring realization, but again, a really powerful realization. So if you're feeling a confusion, an uncertainty, I just don't know what it is, sit with that and go deeper into that around where you've maybe abandoned yourself and your needs for others. And it might be, as these two planets are meeting at the end of Pisces, there is a need to begin to let certain things go. That might be the people pleasing. It might be putting everybody else above you. It might be following other people's dreams and not your own. But really feel into that if there is the sense of confusion. And if you're on the other hand, that sense of drive towards what you want, really begin to follow that, because the next day on Tuesday, Mars moves into Aries. Now, as Mars goes into Aries, it's kind of like all systems go. We're going to feel this fresh new energy. It's going to be like suddenly we've been released out of the gates. There's going to be a sense of wanting to move forwards. Mars in Aries is action oriented, gets things done, is brave and is bold. The only thing just to be mindful of, and we find this around anything to do with Aries energy, Aries can be guilty of starting 74 things and not finishing anything. So when you're feeling this big drive to get things done, be mindful you're putting your focus into a couple of things rather than trying to do 100 things all at once, because you're going to get a little bit further down the line and feel then that nothing's getting done because you're trying to do too much. But on Tuesday, there is going to be this fresh hit of energy that comes in that just helps us to feel like, right, I'm ready now. I'm ready to move into something, which is going to be really beautifully backed up then on Wednesday by, first of all, the fact we get Beltane, which is a cross-quarter festival that celebrates the peak of spring and the first signs of summer. So we're now at that exact halfway point between the spring equinox and the summer solstice. And between now and the summer solstice is the peak time for manifestation in our lives. It's when we look at everything in nature all around us and there is fertility, there's growth, everything's blossoming, everything's blooming. And this cross-quarter festival was a real celebration of abundance, fertility, manifestation, the divine masculine and divine feminine energies weaving and coming together to create. It's a really big creative energy. And I always say this, but on Beltane, anything feels possible. It's a time of the year where just go outside and look in nature if you're in doubt, and look at everything just growing and coming into full bloom, and feel the life force energy that's in the air around you. And it's the same life force energy that we can use to grow our dreams and our desires. So this is a beautiful day to just check in with your spring intentions. Are you giving them the desired energy that they need to come to life? And what is it you really want to manifest between now and the summer solstice? Because manifestation energies are everywhere. We just have to really tap into them. Now, when the same day we get the last quarter moon in Aquarius, the last quarter moon is that part of the lunar cycle where we really begin to release and let go of anything we don't want to take into the next cycle with us. And with this last quarter moon happening in Aquarius, there's going to be a big break for freedom. We're going to really want to let go of anything that gets in the way of us going after what it is that we want and showing up as more of our full selves and living in alignment with our values and taking care of ourselves and knowing that we're worthy. There's going to be a big shedding come about around anything that just feels like it restricts you, that holds you down, that holds you back. And on this same day, in order to bring that to the forefront, we've got Venus squaring Pluto. Now, this is going to be a day where things may get tested, especially if on Monday you set out and you're like, yep, I'm going to self-care, I'm going to put myself first, I'm going to know my worth, I'm going to really live with my values. We'll find as Venus squares Pluto, there's going to be things tested. Relationships are likely to be tested. Your values are likely to be tested. Your self-worth is likely to be tested, to really ask you or show you, are you really in alignment with what it is that you want and desire? Are you really living in alignment with those values? Are you really finding those deep foundations of self-worth? And so Wednesday could be a day where we do start to find things just a little bit tested so that we can begin to see where we are still in our own way and what does need. Pluto always brings an energy of death, rebirth, transformation. So are there still parts of ourselves and our lives that need to be allowed to die away, particularly on this last quarter moon, in order to free us to be more of ourselves? Now, this is all such powerful information because on Thursday then, Pluto stations retrograde. Now, Pluto stations retrograde every year for about 5 months a year. And because it's a slower moving process, it takes us through this kind of deep excavation of self. So when Pluto stations retrograde and moves to its retrograde period, we are really shown in no uncertain terms what is no longer working in our lives. Pluto really takes us into that sense of where we are still holding on, where we're still trying to manipulate and control things that aren't meant for us. And we are just really, really shown what is no longer serving you and what is no longer working for you. Now, what Pluto will also do is really take us into ourselves, into our shadows. So it's a time that we can really begin to see our self-sabotages, our limiting beliefs, the way that we hold ourselves back, the way that we say that we want something, but then we're afraid to do it so that we don't go ahead and do it. And we allow those little sabotages to constantly come back time after time. And so this is almost like a very big death and rebirth portal where we allow ourselves to really begin to see our shadows, to see what lurks beneath the surface, to see our fears, to see our limiting beliefs and our sabotaging tendencies, and allow those parts of us to begin to die away and be transformed. And so this is why we really need that very deep self-care practice that Venus in Taurus is going to bring us. And this is actually going to be a beautiful beginning to the retrograde, because although there might be shadowy stuff surfacing and things we're going to have to look at and face, if we've got that self-care practice established, if we're truly taking care of ourselves and we're making ourselves important and we're putting ourselves first, we're able then to begin to look at these shadowy parts of self without it taking us into too deep a spiral, because we're able to be held in that. And through this, we're going to be able to find much deeper layers of self-worth, of self-belief, of self-knowing. And this is going to be really, again, backed up on Friday. This week just continues this beautiful kind of evolutionary dance, because on Friday we get Mars then sextile Pluto. Now, as Mars meets Pluto, especially with Pluto having just gone into retrograde, there is going to be this deep desire, longing, knowing to align with more of your purpose, to align with more of your truth, to align with more of who you deeply, truly are. And so if you started to look at your values and your worth and your self-care at the beginning of the week, by the end of the week when this comes around, you should have established this very deep sense of knowing what you want. And Mars sextile in Pluto is going to help you then to really begin to want to strongly align with who you are and what you want, and to allow anything not in resonance with that to begin to die and shed and release away. And we are then in the waning lunar energies, which is going to be so beautifully supportive for starting to let these things go. And this might be limiting beliefs, it might be old habits that are no longer serving you, it might be old ways of doing things where you're like, hold on, I've always done it this way. It might be the times you always say yes, it might be people pleasing, it might be things around and outside of you, of letting go of certain relationships that are no longer in alignment or serving you, or certain situations you keep finding yourself in. But this is going to be a very powerful week that is asking you to establish a very deep and true sense of self. So really knowing who you are, what you want, what your values are, what you're heading towards, how you're going to put yourself first a little bit more. And please remember, we're very much taught that to put yourself first is selfish, but I would argue the opposite is true. And when you don't take care of yourself, you're no good for anybody else around you. And so this is such a powerful time to put in place that knowing of I am worthy and deserving. And the more you can put that in place, the more then this same energy will start to ripple out into everything that you want. Because the truth is, you're never really going to be able to achieve that big dream or what you want if you don't believe you're worthy and deserving of it. So this is a week to establish strong self-care practices, to know that you're worthy and deserving of your love, care, time and attention, to really begin to look at self, to look at what you want and where you want to go, and then also begin to look at the shadows of what gets in the way of that and what we want to allow to die away, so that we can then begin to manifest with those Beltane energies. And just like nature, look at nature. In order for nature to be able to grow everything that she's growing now, everything had to die. Everything had to go back to the earth. Everything had to be shed and released and let go of. And this is a beautiful example of what do we now need to let go of in order to come into full blossom and bloom. And remember that the ability to come into full blossom and bloom comes from having deep roots in the earth. The deeper the roots, the higher the rise. And your roots are your self-care practices. They are what are going to really establish the roots of you being worthy and deserving, to then be able to be brave and bold enough, first of all, to let go of what you know you need to let go of, because you love yourself enough to know that needs to happen and trust yourself enough to face it. And also then to know that you're worthy and deserving of what it is that you're creating and manifesting and bringing in. So that's what I really want to give you this week, that your self-care are your roots that are going to then help you to blossom and bloom and to grow into all that you can be. If you do want to work with these Beltane energies, we are bringing back the soul space classes for Beltane. So the link will be in my bio or on my website. We're going to move and weave and flow with all these beautiful manifestation and creation energies. So if that calls to you, join us. And otherwise, so much love, and I'll see you soon.